so eager to help us, to bless us, to increase in our lives. That's God's character. He's a God of increase, He's a God of love, He's a God of multiplication. He's waiting for an opportunity to bless us and to bring increase. But He cannot go against His own principles. And God's principle is, be faithful, and I can add to it.
Yeah, I think Mount Malanje is a lot more than just a hike. It was an adventure. It was an opportunity to do a whole bunch of obstacles and difficult parts on a journey together, and get wet and get dirty and get lost and just have some nervous moments and some awesome moments. And
all the mosquitoes.
Charles, I want to get pictures of you while you're still alive. Good.
Something that made the journey truly special was we carried a cross up as we went up on this mountain, and besides the fact that the guys who were really strong were able to carry the cross most of the way, it had such a significant meaning. At one stage, me and my husband also took part of the cross, and while we were carrying it, we just realized once again like what it means to take up your own cross. And while actually having something on your shoulders and feeling the weight of it, you realize what Jesus did for you. And it just made it so significant, climbing this mountain, seeing glorious creation, and then just realizing like the God that made this carried this cross for you.
She's climbing Malanje. She's a strong girl. Look, she's gonna climb this rock. She'll climb this rock. Yes, look. Oh, oh, whew. He's strong. Oh.
Let's go.
And then the day when we ascended the peak and we climbed up, and it was quite, it took a lot of effort out of us.
strenuous.
It was quite strenuous. And when we reached the top, it was just this magnificent view. Everywhere you looked, it was just clouds, and far below you see the rest of the mountain going. And for us, that was just a moment of really being in awe of creation. And I think as a group, that was a very significant moment for us, realizing each other's strength and doing this together. Yeah, Mount Malanje was definitely a highlight, not only of this training school, but I think of our lives.
I'll read a verse from Isaiah 58, verse 7. It says, "It is not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into your house. When you see the naked, to cover him, and not to hide yourself from your own flesh." It's a principle that springs out of joy and out of love from your heart. So, in our first week of training, we had a trip to Bangula where we distributed things to the poor and the people who are the victims of the floods down there in Chikwawa. So we learned more about giving when we had this trip, because we saw how they were joyous when they were receiving the food, and they seemed to be blessed because God sent us there, because it wasn't us, but I think it's God who sent us to give those food to the poor people in Chikwawa.
What I really love about Foundations for Farming is that it really starts with the change of heart. It starts with a change of perspective. This would feed your stomach, but what's really needed is the God who created this. And we've got principles that we can use to help people to feed their stomachs, but also feed their spirits. And just one small flame, one small spark can set a whole field on fire. What I'm really excited about is the way that God can use this to impact not only Malawi and the local farmers, but actually the rest of the world. I know that it's taking place throughout the world, but just small villages all coming to know how to provide for themselves, coming to know how to love each other and care, the principles of generosity, faithfulness. We thank God for these. And so I'm excited to know that we can be part of what He's doing at this time. I'm excited to know that we can be part of what He's doing for Malawi and this nation, bringing them back to Him, bringing them back to a faith in Him where they are not fearful for their own provision, they're not fearful for their lives and their futures, but they can trust in Him and they can have a greater expectancy of what He wants to do. So yeah, I'm looking forward to applying Foundations for Farming as an access ministry, as well as a real physical way of helping people provide for themselves. And I see training centers, I see people coming back to Malawi as it becomes a fruitful basket of bread basket of provision, and I really see people with hope and with purpose.
My vision for Cameroon is to engage in empowering Cameroonians in training by making them to know God's way of carrying out farm activities. I'm going to establish the foundation for farming precepts or principles because it's so inspiring.
That's the piece you're going to have in your hand.
So this is the part that you're going to have in your hand.
You mustn't come.
When I came to this training, we spoke about the training of trainers, and I've got here in my hands a maize cob with nearly 600 seeds on it. It came from one seed and it multiplied in a few months. It germinated, produced a plant, and that plant produced this cob. When we go out and we sow seed into men's hearts or into farmers' hearts, and we just go and train farmers, it is like just putting a seed into one person and he's going to be able to provide for his family. But if we go and we train trainers that will train trainers that will train trainers, then we will find multiple multiplication. While we were here and we looked at the need for Africa, we also realized that in Africa there is a problem with all the resources available, but so little production and productivity. We wonder what is the problem. But out of a business perspective, I immediately thought, wow, if we've got the resources, we can turn this continent into a strong economy. And I was again thinking big picture. Go to governments, go to politicians, maybe even take it onto television and put all the training we've had out there. But in the end, we realized that through disciple making, through investing in one person at a time that will invest in another person, multiplication starts taking place. So I think if I would go to a remote village of Makanjila in Malawi, which is actually one of the most remoted villages and seemingly insignificant, but at a certain point when we do things right and we build into the right people and we give them everything we can to ensure that they will multiply and become trainer of trainers, disciple makers. And a disciple is only a disciple when he has produced disciples, but he's actually only a disciple when he's truly discipled people into making disciples that will make disciples. So at one point, Makanjila, if we do it right, will be satisfied, and then it will go beyond. Like at a certain point it will mushroom and reach the world. So nothing we can do, no place we can go can be too insignificant if God is in it.